everyone, Christine here. Happy to be back in front of you, and sorry I missed last week. It got later and later in the week, and finally I decided I'm just gonna wait and give you a 2-week update on my next video. So sorry about that. I will try and manage my time a little better going forward. I was actually trying to finish up some things for Christmas. Let's start with crochet today. I have worked on many small projects over the last 2 weeks, and in no particular order, I will just show you what I have completed and what I have started. First off, I realized I had not shown you my completed scarf, the pattern by CJ Brady called Be Like a Sunflower, and I blocked it, and it looked even more beautiful after blocking. The ends didn't curl up as much, so I took some new photos, and unfortunately I don't have the actual scarf here to show you because I sent it to my niece for her birthday. I was really happy to be able to give that to her. She mentioned that, or when she saw it, she said it was really pretty, and so I thought I'm gonna give it to her. So I hope she enjoys wearing that, and I think the color would look beautiful on her, like with a black top or any solid color top. I think even something multicolored, because the scarf itself is just a burnt orange in kind of a tonal colorway. So I will post a little slideshow here for you so you can see the final pictures. I'm real happy with that scarf, and I may indeed make it again because it's easy and can be worn so many different ways. It's stylish, and I think even if I made it in straight wool, it would be cool enough to wear all year long because it's such a lightweight shawl or scarf. So very happy with that. Next up, I'll just go through what's in front of me. I went back to an old whip and finished my second Chunky Benjamina. The pattern is actually called Chunky Benji by, she used to be Crochet Objet Knitting, and now she is MDays. MDays Crochet or MDays Vlog. It's just the letter M and D-A-Y-S, and she is a crocheter in Israel, and she knits as well. And this is her pattern. It is super easy and super huggable. First bear I've made that you don't fill. You probably fill it maybe half full, so it stays really pliable and huggable, especially for little arms. And I'm just thrilled with this. I mentioned before when I made it, she has a unique way of leaving a hole for the legs instead of attaching them, having to, figure out where to attach them after the fact. You actually leave a hole when you're crocheting the main body and then fill that hole in with the legs and the arms after you complete the body. So I love that part of the pattern. I find it just so stress relieving that you don't have to line up things at the end. They are already in the perfect place. And you do have to sew on the nose, but it's pretty simple because you just count the number of rows from the top of the head, and the eyes go right at the top of the nose. So yeah, I guess the only thing you really have to measure or try and gauge right is the ears, because you do sew those on after the fact. But as she mentions in her pattern, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's homemade, And I love the way this is Karen Latte Cakes. I forgot the color, and I don't have I'll put the name of the yarn. I don't know if it's a discontinued yarn, actually, to be honest, the colorway that is, because it's a self-striping latte cake, and I just love the way it worked out across her eyes, like she's wearing a little mask. Superhero bear. Anyway, this is going to a niece of mine who is celebrating her birthday on the 26th. And yes, it will be a little bit late, but that is because, well, number one, I had to finish it, and it took me a little bit longer than I thought. When I pulled it out of whips, it was only about this far along on the body, so I had to finish the body and do everything else pretty much. And so, yeah, it took me a little while, but it's super soft, super huggable, real happy with it. And I also decided to make, which I have not finished yet, hopefully I can finish today, a little vest that goes with her. And this is actually another of the same designer's patterns. It's a little vest, and at first I had to figure out if I had the right color in stock, and I did. I had this pretty bright pink. It's not showing up as bright as it really is. It's like fuchsia. And so that's the front, and then I'm still working on the back. I've got about this much, almost done with the back. And then I will put a little border all around it and finish that up. So that's actually backwards and upside down. Anyway, she has a little bit of tapering towards her neck, and that will be her little vest. I'm considering a little bit of embellishment on the vest just to make it more feminine. I found these flowers that I had made in the past, and I thought, I don't know if the yarn is too chunky or not, but I was thinking of putting a little flower on the corner. What do you think? I don't know. Haven't made up my mind on that yet. It's definitely a different yarn, different consistency, and much bigger, heavier weight yarn. I think this is a 4-weight yarn, and I'm working with, well, the latte cake is a 4-weight, but the vest itself is a 2-weight, is a sport weight. So I don't know. I'm thinking about that. Or the border that she uses is just a plain border, and I was thinking of making the one additional row and making it like a shell, something frilly at the bottom. Still thinking that through, but hopefully I will at least just drop part of the vest. Hopefully I will at least put it in the mail by the 26th. But chunky Benjamina, so she's going to her new home very quickly. Another cool thing, since you don't stuff it very much, she sits very easily, normally, on her own. Isn't that cute? Okay, so next up, so with that, I am also sending some doll clothes because my nieces have 18-inch dolls. They're like the famous one is called the American Girl doll, but there's a lot of other versions, and the version from Target, I believe it's called My Generation doll, and those are the ones that they have. And so Pamela at Adoring Dolls Crochet makes patterns for 18-inch dolls, and so I have used a number of her patterns in the past, and so I made a few outfits, and I've shown you a couple of them recently. I made the doctor outfit. This one's actually going to her older sister because I don't like to send a gift just to the one having the birthday, you know. So the scrubs that I showed you earlier and the doctor coat, I finished this actually in the last 2 weeks as well. It's got a little pocket there. And this came with another hat and a mask. This is the kind you tie on, which I actually like better for the doll because then it doesn't slip off. The mask that came with the scrubs just loops around the ears, and it'll stay on like for a picture, but to play with, that mask is gonna fall off. And then a little hat. And the mask on this one actually helps hold the hat on because the hat is, it's more like just a little cap that the doctors wear, the surgeons wear, like when they're doing surgery. Anyway, also, I have to mention this. she makes her patterns. I think her doll doesn't have quite as thick a middle as the My Generation doll. So sometimes they are a little snug. So you have to watch that if you use her patterns. But sometimes I can adjust it. This time I did not. And wearing this over the scrubs, it's a little snug. I mean, you can do it and you can probably play with it fine. But for me, the perfectionist, it could have been just a little bit looser. It actually works better as a cardigan with the doll's regular clothes that she comes with because they're nice and thin. The scrubs are made out of the same 4-weight yarn, so putting the two together, yeah, it's kind of a tight fit. And I'll show you some pictures of these outfits on the dolls as well as I chat. And hopefully the girls like them. So this is the scrubs that I already showed you and the doctor outfit. So this is going to her older sister. And then for the birthday girl, I have the bear, and I started this dress eons ago. It's probably been a year, and it's a BagODay pattern. It's a doll dress. Actually, she made it for her daughter when she was a toddler, but now the pattern, she shows the pattern as a doll pattern, and it indeed fits the doll wonderfully. It's a little wide, hence the ribbon around the middle. I just inserted it in the, the holes of the lacy holes of the stitches, and cinched it in a bit at the waist. But otherwise, it is beautiful. And of course, as always, I will put links to all my patterns that I mentioned in the description box below if you're interested in making them. This is a very easy dress to make. My own issue with it, and why I held on to it for so long after I finished it, was the holes are a little see-through. So ideally, you want a little slip or something to go underneath it, because you can totally see. And the pattern didn't come with any, kind of slip or, well, it was just the dress. So what I added on, first I made these. I found a little pattern for a pair of pants, but it still showed too much of the leg for my liking. It's like a see-through dress. I also made little shoes. These are from Pamela's Adoring Crochet. She has lots of patterns for shoes in her doll patterns. So they're like little Mary Janes. So cute. And so I had a plan to make a slip for the dress. Now, my sewing skills are not great, and so partly I was intimidated. I did find a pattern, but again, the pattern sat for months and months, and then I had to get fabric. And first I had beige fabric, and I thought, it's just gonna be too obvious. So then I thought, I'll get some red fabric. So then I had to wait and remember to buy red fabric. You know how it goes, right? How a whip ends up sitting for months and months. So recently, very recently, like 2 weeks ago, I finally went to Hobby Lobby and I picked up a red fat quarter, and it was the perfect size to make a little slip. So there's my slip. Don't look too carefully. It's got a little snap closure to get it over her neck. And yeah, it's minimal. You can see the hem. I did when I cut it out, I wasn't thinking about length. I just thought it'll fit fine. Well, it's just the right length. I wouldn't want it any shorter. So I didn't want to fold over and make a hem, because then I was going to lose some of the length. So I just did I think it's called an overlocking stitch on my sewing machine, which I had never done before, of course. And I have actually seen that on doll clothes in the past, like Barbie doll clothes that you buy. They'll just do an overlocking stitch instead of a hem. But I didn't think about that until I had already sewed the slip together. So the neck was really rough, but I did manage to do that on the sewing machine. Again, not perfect. But the armholes, there was no way I was going to be able to do the overlock on the sewing machine. So I went through by hand and did my own overlock, which is even worse than the sewing machine version. So I really hope the slip stays at least in one piece to give her some nice playtime with the dress, because of course it's beautiful. And who knows, maybe she has a slip from another outfit that she can wear underneath. But anyway, so there's the slip and it goes right under the dress. And now I'm thrilled with it because, oh, it just looks so adorable. And again, I'll put some pictures of the whole outfit on the doll. But I'm real happy with this. And it is a beautiful dress. You just have to, if you're okay with it being, you know, real lacy and see-through, that's fine. Or just plan to figure out a way to make a slip. And I actually found the slip pattern online as well. I think it was a YouTube tutorial. And she even gave you the little PDF template to print and cut out. So it was like one pattern piece and you cut two for the back and one for the front, you know, on the fold of the fabric. But super easy. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah, it was just intimidation that kept this sitting in whips for so long. Yeah, but I think I just searched for slip for doll or 18-inch doll slip, something like that, and I found it easily. But I can't remember exactly what tutorial I used, so I will not link that one. There was one more. Oh, the outfit, the pink and blue outfit I showed you recently. It's like a pantsuit. That's also going to her for her birthday gift. So it's two outfits for her and the teddy bear. I had sent a teddy bear to her older sister for another birthday, so I just wanted them both to have one. And then the doctor outfit for her older sister this time around. So I'm real happy with that. I hope to get that in the mail very soon as I finished Benjamina's vest. And the last thing I worked on, oh, two more things. I got a little bit further on my gingham blanket, not much, but I just started feeling really guilty because I'm not making much progress on it. This is a slow going pattern, just a word of caution. So here's where I'm at. I'm about 2/3 of the way through this next section. Remember, it's going to have 5 of them, so I'm a little over halfway. And I think I need to finish it by February, early February. Anyway, so we'll be going fast and furious on this as soon as Christmas is over. I didn't work at all on my socks. I probably won't even touch them again until after Christmas, but that's okay. So yeah, I've talked about this gingham blanket several times, so I just wanted to show you I have made a tiny bit of progress, maybe 5 or 6 rows of crochet. It's a wonderful pattern though, wonderful. It's just tedious because you are carrying the second color behind the one you're working on constantly. So you're always carrying 2 yarns, the color from the previous square and the current color. And then when you go to the Y, you're carrying those 2 colors. And so you always have to remember to capture that other yarn in your stitch, which I don't always if I'm not paying attention. So then you have to frog that many stitches and do them over, because you can't have a piece of yarn all by itself hanging loose. Yeah, so I really enjoy the result, but the process, not so much. Okay, just being honest here. At this point, I would say I will probably make another one of these just because I love the look so much. There's something about gingham that I just love. Okay. Lastly, I finished this little neck scarf. I mentioned this in my last video, and I don't think I've taken any pictures of it because I haven't blocked it yet. But I mentioned that I was afraid I was playing yarn chicken and wasn't going to be able to finish with the beige color. But yay, that wasn't yarn chicken at all. Check out that. There's quite a bit left. This is a Stanley cake, one of these 1,000-yard merino cakes, or 1,000 meters. What is it, 1,000 meters or 1,000 yards? I can't remember. Anyhow, it's a beautiful yarn to work with. It is one of these unplied, so it's 4 strands just held together, and you use a little bead to keep them in place. And I have a ton left of this. I almost feel like doing another neck scarf. Maybe I'll just ball up the rest of this light color and then go to the, I almost think I will ball up the next 2 colors and do a scarf in the this purpley color and the blue for a trim. I like that idea. Or vice versa. Oh, that makes more sense. I'll do the scarf in the blue and then the trim in the purple. Anyhow, this is fun to work with. What I have discovered though, since I moved, well, actually it's the reason I moved my craft table over by the window, is I love working in natural light. It is the best thing for crochet, in my opinion. I have some pretty bright lights in here, but when you open up the window and you bring in that sunlight, oh, it's a joy. You can see so much more detail. Even in the tiniest stitch, not a problem with sunlight. So I love working here by the window. And I will just show you close up. This is a gradient, so it started with the lighter tan, and then Stanley is just amazing how they gradually bring in the new color by dropping one strand and bringing in a strand of a different color. So if this were a big shawl, the color changes would be so minute. See, there you can see where the new color came in on like the second to the last row. And then by the time I got done with the frilly section, there were more strands of the second color coming through. I love this. It's a nice neutral but cute little scarf to wear around your neck, just for a tiny bit of warmth, but more decor, obviously, because it's so small. But really pretty. I'm definitely gonna make another one with the rest of this cake. Definitely. And that was, did I mention? That's also MDays scarf is the name of it. It's a pattern by Moran is her name, the lovely crocheter in Israel, and the designer of the chunky Benji as well. That's crochet for the week, or 2 weeks. Yes, I made this too. This is my Agatha's reading shawl. It's just a little bit chilly in here today, so I threw it around my neck. This shawl is so versatile. I mean, it's a full-size shawl, but because it's made in, is it a fingering weight? It's either a fingering or a number 2, or a DK, might be a DK. This is full spectrum yarn by Thrists and Stitches. I received the whole set in a mystery box from BagODay Crochet. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful surprise in a mystery box I purchased from her maybe a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago, and couldn't wait to use it. And then the Agatha's reading shawl came up, which I saw originally on Judy's channel, Judy's Creations in Crochet. She had done one in, I think she's done several. She's the one I heard of this pattern from. And so months and months went by, and I was waiting for the right yarn, and then I remembered I had this, and it was perfect. It was just the right amount of yarn. I love the color grades, the colorway. It goes from a dark gray to a light gray to blue to this light purple, green, and brown. It's kind of like an earthy theme in my mind. Dark cloudy skies to blue sky to some flowers, greenery, and earth. Anyway, that's the way I see it. It is so drapey. I can do anything with this shawl. I wear it over my shoulders. I throw one side over a shoulder. I sometimes wear it totally backwards. I think I've even draped it over myself as a blanket one night when I was a little cold. So yeah, I love this pattern and shawl. It's a very easy pattern. I actually took this shawl with me when I went home for my dad's funeral services. Now my mind was not in any place where I could concentrate on anything complicated, and this pattern was perfect. I worked on it on the airplane and sometimes at night in the evenings when I was just spent. Yeah, this was a great pattern to work with then. So I just wanted to mention it, and I'm enjoying wearing it. Okay, last thing is my health update, and we continue in the same vein as we have been going. I think this is going to be called the year of maintenance. I actually lost a good bit before I started this in June. I lost a good bit of weight in January, February. So I'll give you a total recap on my next video to finish off the year. But 2 weeks ago, I lost 0.4 pounds, which is fine for a week. But then this week I gained 1.2. So it was 2 weeks of small losses, 1 week of a gain, and I'm back at 207.4 this morning, which is not great. That is 3 pounds less than when I started in June. So yes, we have done this all for the last 6 months. And rather than be discouraged about it, I'm really thinking about the good habits I am developing, and I am feeling stronger from exercising more. I have been closing the rings on my iWatch consistently now for, I think I mentioned last time I had finished November having done 16 days out of the 30 days, and I have done every day in December except for 2 days. So that is by God's grace. Some days I don't know how I get it in, but I am definitely increasing my movement, and I am so happy about that. And so there are good developments in spite of the scale not having moved very much lately. Maintenance is a challenge, and I know because I have lost and gained many times in my life, and the gains come back so quickly once you stop paying attention. So these 6 months actually have been a good learning time and readjusting, and so it is not a lot. It is not time wasted or time lost in any sense, and so I consider that a success. I keep my food log sporadically. It's not something that really, it gives me good feedback when I'm wondering why I am up on the scale because it is so easy to forget all the little things that you put in your mouth throughout the day. So that is good feedback for me, but it doesn't really deter me. If I'm thinking of eating something that I shouldn't eat, I eat it and I log it on the food log and move on. So I think the bigger deterrent to keep me somewhat on track is having to come and confess to you all every week, or in this case 2 weeks, because I can't go crazy and come back with a 5-pound gain. That would just be an obvious throwing caution to the wind, and I don't want to do that. So, not saying it won't happen, but I think the reason it hasn't happened in the last 6 months is because I've had this little bit of accountability. I realize it's not a great amount of accountability because I can still do whatever I want, but you all get to hear the bad news. So anyhow, my sleep is also better. I've noticed I can easily get my 7-8 hours in, and that is a plus. And I'm working on filling my mind with good things. I am more aware of if I happen to be, like, I like to listen, here's an example. I like to listen to audiobooks, and I have been running dry on authors to read lately. I read all my favorites and everything they had to offer in the free library. And so I start searching for new books to read, and I can't remember the author's name recently. I tried a new author, and I like mysteries, but I don't like a lot of gore or a lot of profanity. My mind is really sensitive to it, and I'm thankful for that because I don't need to fill my mind with that stuff. And lately, I've noticed it is more sensitive to that, and that is a good thing. But this particular author it seemed like the further it went on, in even the first couple chapters, the more profanity he used. And I said, why am I listening to this? I can find I don't need to listen to that to find a good story. So I returned it to the library. And I think that was part of the Holy Spirit retraining my mind to look for that which edifies and feeds it good nutrition in the way of my thought process and thinking positively and good, and like Philippians, I think it's 4:8 says, whatever is lovely and good and pure and true, these are the things that we need to be thinking about, and the things that will nourish us mentally and spiritually and emotionally. So I am definitely more in tune with that lately and trying to get better even. The doctor I mentioned not too long ago, Dr. Lee Warren, is also a new resource for me. That I've been watching more of his podcasts, and it is amazing to me that the brain, one thing he said recently on a podcast called If You're Stuck, he said it's not your fault. So the way that Dr. Warren explains the fact that you're stuck is that your brain finds the most efficient ways to do things. It's not so much finding the best way as the most efficient way. So if you are in the habit of reacting a certain way when something triggers you or an event happens, the more you do that, the more it becomes rote, and your response is rote, meaning you don't even think about that. It's kind of like, I gave a good example, when you move to a new home, or you start a new job and you drive that route to and from. Well, the first few times you are following directions or following a map, You know, you have to pay attention to where you're going. But after a while, it gets to where you leave work and arrive home and you weren't even like conscious of the turns that you made or the route that you took, because your brain already knows the route and you don't have to think about it anymore. And that's kind of how bad habits can become so ingrained. That action of going to the pantry when I'm stressed, well, I don't even think about it anymore because I've done it so many times. That's where I go. And the brain doesn't necessarily, it doesn't know that's a bad thing to do. It's just the thing that I do. And so it makes it that much quicker for me to do without thinking about it. So the process of rewiring the brain to do differently is where your mind takes over and your mind stops the thought of going to the pantry. Like, because you become, you know, you're actively trying to change that system that you have put in place. So when that trigger comes and I get stressed, I have to try and stop myself right there and think, okay, is my response to whatever's going on, is it appropriate? Is there a lie that is driving my next action, wanting to go to the pantry? In other words, just stopping yourself, capturing those thoughts and putting in place a new reaction. Let's say in my case, it's just stopping and saying a prayer, and then maybe even opening the Bible and looking for some truth to guide my next action and stop me from going there. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not there yet. You know, I still find myself eating out of stress or frustration. But that's the goal. And so if I can make that change more times and make it, that's going to take quite a few times in my case, I think, I can rewire my brain so that I no longer automatically go to the pantry to find something to eat, or the refrigerator to find something to eat. And that's the neat thing that I am learning from Dr. Warren, is that whole way the brain works and how it's made to work. And it's made to be efficient, and so that we use less energy. And it's not a, how do I put it? So the way my mind is working is not my fault. It's the way my brain is working is not my fault. It's the way it was made to work, and to create those neural pathways that are very efficient, and just to get me to the next thing more efficiently. I'm horrible at explaining that, but in my mind I have it. It sounds a lot more clear. And that's why it is possible to renew our minds like the Bible tells us to do. Because the mind and brain are two different things. And the mind is where we control, where we exert the control and the stopping to think and the actively seeking a new path to take and retrain that brain. And that is what I'm hoping to do. I know it's possible because the Bible wouldn't tell us to do it if it were not possible. The issue is not doing it on my strength, but doing it on God's strength and seeking his help, because it's only with his help that I can accomplish this. And so, to be continued for as long as I have breath in my lungs. And on that note, I will end this. I would like to say a heartfelt Merry Christmas to all of you, to any of you, to all of you. That you would know the joy of the reason we celebrate this season. And enjoy the lights, enjoy the fun, but at the heart of it, know that it's about the Savior who came in the form of a humble baby, in the form of a human being, God reduced to flesh and bone for our sake, to save us, to be that sacrifice, that ending, ultimate sacrifice that made it possible for us to know God, to be His children, to spend eternity in heaven and not hell, because the wages of sin is death, and we are all sinners because of Adam and Eve. And they started it, and you could think you're the best, most kind and moral person in the world, but you were still a sinner. You were born into sin. And whether it's telling little white lies or whatever, or murdering somebody, we are all sinners needing a Savior. And that death, that God in the flesh died, He died once for all to make the way for us to be forgiven, to be made clean and whole and perfect one day. And as we live out our lives on this earth, to be sanctified. And no, we're not going to reach perfection until we receive that eternal body, but we are constantly growing and learning, and even the mistakes that we make today, they're covered by that one sacrifice on the cross. Why? Because it was God who made that sacrifice. God's Son, who was God Himself. I know it's hard to understand, but He was God Himself. Came, died on that cross, and then did not stay dead. If He stayed dead, we'd have no hope. But He rose like He said He was going to on the third day. By the power of the Father, who raised Him from the dead, He sits now at the right hand of the Father. He intercedes on our behalf. Yep, every one of us who believes in His name. He is our advocate now. And while Satan is on the other side accusing us and trying to bring us down, Christ is saying, nope, that one's mine, covered by my sacrifice, forgiven, made whole, and He's my child, and nothing can take that away from us. And that's what Christmas is all about. That's the joy of Christmas. That's the reason to celebrate 365 days a year, not just one day. And I know it wasn't necessarily December 25th that Christ was born. That's the day we've chosen to make it a big celebration. But I think the way the seasons were explained and the timing of the feast, it was actually probably sometime in the autumn that He was born. That's just a minor detail. Don't get hung up on that. Just know that He did come. It's true. It's true. He came, He died, He rose again, and we can be saved. We can be forgiven. We can receive new life in Him and a renewed mind. Yes. And so I hope that is the joy that dwells within you this Christmas, and that for that reason alone, it can be a Merry Christmas. For some of us, this year has been hard. Losing people that are precious to us. There's a temptation to dwell on that, and to dwell on the fact that in this present life we will not see them again. And to think about all the wonderful celebrations and happy times that we shared with that person. to know that they're over. But again, that wasn't the reason we were celebrating in the first place. It was Christ, and Christ lives. Christ is not gone anywhere. And that hope, that is as strong as ever within us. That presence is with us. And He's the one who gave us that precious person in the first place. That was a gift from Him. The Bible says every good and perfect gift comes from above, from the Father of lights, of the heavenly lights, God Himself. So when I miss my dad, who passed away in June of this year, and I miss his smile, and I miss those daily texts that we would get from him, and the calls just to hear my voice, because he lived several thousand miles away from me for many years now. When I miss all those things, and I miss his smile and FaceTiming with him, and I think about all the wonderful things he did for me, and what a wonderful dad he was, my heart must turn to gratitude and to thankfulness for all of that, and for the gift that came from God, not from my dad. God gave me into His family and His life, and brought me born into His household, and gave me a wonderful mom and dad. And that was from God. That was not them. They had no power over that. They got pregnant, had a baby, and it was me. And did it 6 times. Gave me some wonderful brothers and sisters. Again, that was all God. And so we have to be careful not to worship the creation, but to worship the Creator when we are given such precious and wonderful gifts in our life, though temporary. And we do need to say goodbye to them sometimes. They originally came from God, and He is the author of all goodness and grace, and we should have thankful hearts, and let that thankfulness cheer us during the sad times as well, and restore that joy in our heart, which is deep and just can't be shaken by any event outside of us. It dwells in us because of Christ dwelling in us, and His Holy Spirit dwelling in us, and that eternal hope that nothing can take away from us. So Merry Christmas again, and I will see you, Lord willing, in a week. God bless you. And one more wonderful treat for you as you celebrate the season. I'm going to put a link in a really special video in my description box, and I hope you will check it out. It is the reading of some precious poems. Of course, the one I'm referring to is the Christmas poem, read by Jody Miller, who wrote a book called Beneath the Fig Tree, I think is the name of the book of poems. And he took the time this week to read 3 of them from his book. And it's beautiful. So I hope you will watch the video, listen to the words, and be blessed by that special gift.